Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. I've got a great guest with you today who you may remember because he's got an incredibly rich tech history. And long-time listeners might remember him from way back on episode 141 in 2016. Have we really been doing this that long? It doesn't seem that long ago since I spoke to him. He was the Senior Director of Product Management at Google, and his name is Matt Glotzbach. And he had overall product responsibility for Google's cloud computing applications, including Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Docs, Google Site, Google Voice, Google Talk across businesses and consumer offerings. And that's not all. He was also the Vice President of Product Management at YouTube, where he led the creation of YouTube's music subscription service and fan-funding business platforms. But you know what? I really don't want to focus on his past. What Matt is doing now and where he is heading, that I personally think is much more exciting. He is now the CEO of Quizlet, but this is not his first education-focused initiative. As a 12-year-old Google veteran, he was also part of founding the team of Google Apps for Education. But I invited him back on the show today, not to talk about his past and what he did at Google, but this exciting future he is building and the success that he's enjoying at Quizlet. So buckle up, hold on tight, so I can beam your ears all the way to San Francisco so we can speak with Matt Glotzbach from Quizlet. A massive welcome back to the show, Matthew. Can you remind the listeners of what you do and also your rich history of working at Google and YouTube, etc.?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Neil. And it's great to be here again. And thanks for having me back. So my name is Matt Glotzbach, and I'm the CEO of Quizlet, the world's leading consumer learning application. And prior to joining Quizlet, I spent a lot of my time at Google and YouTube, most recently serving as the Vice President of Product Management at YouTube, where I was leading the team building YouTube subscription services, so YouTube Red and YouTube Music and YouTube TV.
Now, I think it was way back in October 2016 that we last spoke on episode 141, but it really doesn't seem that long ago, but I'm sure we've probably accumulated a few new listeners in that time. So can you just offer an overview of exactly what Quizlet is and also what problems it solves?
Happy to. So Quizlet is the most popular online learning service. We have more than 1 in 2 high school students in the US and 1 in 3 college students using us to help practice and master whatever they're learning. So across a variety of different study modes and games, we help over 30 million people every month learn, master the information they're trying to learn. And the beauty of Quizlet is that you can use it for whatever you're trying to learn. So you can create your own custom content in the form of flashcards and questions and use it to study anything from language vocabulary to organic chemistry to financial planning to real estate, really anything. Or you can choose from the millions of other user-created study materials and find exactly what you need.
Now, I believe the last time we chatted, you had over 100 million user-contributed study sets on Quizlet, and the site and apps saw over 20 million monthly active users, which was phenomenal. So I've got to ask, what have you been up to since we last chatted?
We've been quite busy. So, we now have over 30 million people who are using us on a monthly basis, and that includes over 1 million teachers in the US that are using us. And we've now amassed over 200 million user-contributed study sets, and that represents over 8 billion individual knowledge items or pieces of information. And probably even more staggering is over 80 million new items are being added every week. So the platform is just growing amazingly. And in terms of what we've been up to, in short, I'd say we've been up to a lot. So a few of the highlights, this past year we launched Quizlet Diagrams, and that's a new interactive visual service that gives people the ability to study and learn using visual diagrams in addition to text. We started looking into how we could extend the impact that we're already having more for students, and diagrams really allowed us to help students in subjects like anatomy and physiology or geography or really anything that has a visual component to it that represents a system. And when we looked at textbooks and academics text, the most popular type of content to learn was text, obviously, and the second was images and diagrams. So that was sort of a light bulb moment for us. And so we created this, this capability that allows students to, take an image, or a teacher to take an image, upload it to Quizlet, and then annotate that image, and then we generate questions and study activities from that content. So that's been a huge success, and in the short time that's been live, we've seen literally millions of new original diagrams being created across every possible subject you can imagine. We've also launched a new verified creator program, and this allows more traditional publishers and brands that have educational content that want to have that presence on Quizlet to publish their content on the platform and have that branded presence. So you could look for your publisher's official textbook content, for example, that may align to the text that you're using. And one of the more exciting things that we've done is earlier in the year, we launched our new capability that we call Quizlet Learn. It's an automated, almost AI-based tutor that helps guide the student's study behaviors. So historically, as a student, you would use Quizlet manually. You choose which things to study, and you choose which of our activities to use in the order that you wanted to study things in, et cetera. With Quizlet Learn, we changed that, and we're leveraging the billions of data points we have about how people study, what's most effective to help people reach mastery. And so it's like a tutor sitting right next to you. It gives you the questions in exactly the right order at exactly the right difficulty level to help you master the information as quickly as possible. And since we launched that Quizlet Learn in the spring, it's become one of the most popular ways that people are studying on Quizlet. And I'd say, kind of in summary, that speaks to our broader vision of where we're going with the platform. We have the vision of Quizlet being an AI-based tutor that can help anyone learn anything. And that's something that in the traditional offline world would take years to do. But because of the scale of what we're doing and the data we have, we can achieve that.
Now, some of Quizlet's most popular features have stemmed from hackathons, including a collaborative learning game called Quizlet Live. And Quizlet Flashcard Themes and the scan feature, we actually make it easier to create flashcard sets from printed worksheets. But what really caught my attention was that your company closes down the last 2 weeks of every December, so its employees can work on personal projects from home, which again is a sort of an informal hackathon. Can you tell me more about that approach? And was it something that you'd learned from your time at Google?
So that's right. We in December we have an office tradition where we shut down the office, and it's not holiday time, so it's not vacation time, but rather it's a time for people to reflect and an opportunity for people to work on projects that they it's hard to get around to during the normal course of business, or they need that focus. So when our users slow down, so the end of December tends to be a pretty slow time for us to learners all over the world are taking a break and going on holiday. It really gives us some focus time to take a deep breath and to tackle some of those larger efforts that require that focus. So this could be, people doing some technical debt that an engineer wants to work on, like refactoring a piece of code. It might be some documentation. For example, our localization manager wrote an extensive style guide for how our application should be localized in the tone and approach for copy over this past December. And sometimes it's exploring new technologies or new feature areas that take a larger focused, dedicated time to really get in depth and explore. So this is actually something that Quizlet has been doing for a number of years prior to when I arrived, and we found that it's just really a great way to both allow people to take a deep breath is the way I frame it at the holiday time, when often people want to travel to see family and friends and whatnot, but then also to really get some focused, productive time.
So if we were to look at last December's hackathon, what value did you get from the event as a team? And also, were there any valuable takeaways that you could share with us today?
Oh, absolutely. And hackathons have been, as you mentioned, a long part of our culture. We do them every quarter. And our traditional hackathon, we usually set aside 3 or 4 days for people to come together and work on their passion projects. They They traditionally have a theme, and we have a volunteer from the company who agrees to organize it and run it and whatnot. And then people work for a few days building their projects. And when I say work, I mean they work. This isn't slack off time. I think I've seen people work more late nights and early mornings during hackathons than any other time. And we've even shifted to having our hackathon presentations. The event culminates with a few hours of presentations where people get to demonstrate their work to the whole company. And we've shifted to having those on a Monday because some people have said, hey, we want to keep working on it over the weekend. And I really think that there's three things that we get out of these as a company. The first is creativity and inspiration, right? This is a chance for people to put their ideas forward, to have some time to allow this idea that's been percolating in the back of their mind to come forward and turn into something. And that's really, that inspires both their own independent or their team creativity, but it also tends to catalyze the broader group's thinking about the art of the possible, where we could be going and what we could be doing. Second, I think it really drives an appreciation for the normal planning process and decision-making process, right? I think people start to see how challenging it is to decide what to work on and what not to work on. And so, I think it really drives that appreciation for the way we work normally. And then, last but definitely not least, we actually usually can ship a few things. As you mentioned, some of our more successful projects have originated from hackathons. So, this hackathon was themed Quizlet with friends, and so the broad umbrella was thinking about things of bringing people together and interacting on Quizlet. And we had some great projects. Some highlights were being able to challenge another user in sort of a gamified way on Quizlet Match, bringing background music, kind of game show style music to Quizlet Live. We had one group that implemented a big screen version of like Quizlet on TV so that you could get a group of people together and actually interact on Quizlet on a big screen in kind of a study group. And we even had a team that did a very compelling prototype of Quizlet in augmented reality. So taking the Quizlet diagrams that I mentioned and doing an augmented reality version where you could actually interact with the diagram on a virtual tabletop. So it was really inspiring.
So is it true that it's employees from all departments at Quizlet and not just the techies that all contribute to products that have been released to the users during these hackathons?
It absolutely is. Employees from every department. Obviously, there's a strong development team, user operations, and even our recruiting team. It's a chance for everyone to, in a little bit sort of swim outside their lane and explore their creativity and as well as learn about, bring their unique skills to the table, but also learn about some of the other aspects of what people do day to day that they might not see. So yeah, it's a really it's a great event.
So why do you think hackathons have become a Silicon Valley staple now?
I believe that the best companies create an environment where everyone is empowered to drive change and make things happen, right? I haven't cornered the market on good ideas by any stretch. So it's my job as a leader to get everyone in the company bringing their ideas forward, helping set the direction and drive the business forward. And I believe that hackathons are the real full embodiment of taking ideas from every corner of the company and really empowering people to focus their time on the things they believe that will move Quizlet forward. And so I think that at the root, that it's that physical embodiment of this empowering people and making sure that you're really soliciting ideas and inspiration from every aspect of your organization.
Now, I read a great quote from you recently where you said, I think, what we've seen is that being successful in today's workplace is less about a specific technology skill or knowing a particular language than having a toolkit to understand technology and adapt to its changes. And can you expand on what you meant there and what you envision that toolkit to actually look like?
Absolutely. So, we live in a world that's changing so fast. It's impossible to keep up. And that pace of change is accelerating. So if you look back in history, you used to learn a skill and you would master that skill or that trade and then execute that mastery. And that was your career or your vocation. But today, although obviously mastery of skills is critical, it's no longer a process that has a specific endpoint. To be successful, you have to be continuously learning. And so I believe you have to learn how to learn. And so when we apply that to technology, I think the first step is really about being curious, having that intrinsic drive to ask, well, why does that work like that? Or why did we make that decision? Or how can that be made better? And then next, I think you have to understand how to make sense of data and information. We're really drowning in a sea of, quote, big data. And today's tech worker, you have to have a fundamental understanding of basic statistics, how to analyze and interpret data, how to ask questions of data, to be comfortable making sense of quantitative information. And last, but probably most important, is we have to know how to work together. Gone are the days of that individual executor sort of holed up in their office, toiling away in solitude. We have to be able to come together with people across disciplines, to collaborate with them, to build off of one another's ideas and skills. And so I think, the skills of the modern worker are really across that of being able to adapt to change, to be curious, to understand data and make sense of information, and to collaborate and to work together in teams toward a common goal.
So how do you manage the increasing competition from education tech startups, or should I say EdTech startups? There's even a word for it now. I mean, does that keep you awake at night, or is it a good thing that drives you to be the best that you can?
I think it's a great thing. I really believe that more investment in education and learning is so important. It's clear to me that in this fast-paced, ever-changing world, technology already does, and will continue to play an even more meaningful role in helping people learn and personalizing the learning experience. Now, I don't believe it will replace the teacher. However, I think it will really help augment and scale the teacher, the educator. And so, I believe that we've seen throughout history, education is the great equalizer. It can bring people up out of poverty. It can empower people. It can unleash the human potential that exists in everyone. And so I think more investment in technology and education technology in particular is just a great thing. And as you said, it pushes us to be our best self and to really keep innovating and pushing the envelope.
So what's next for Quizlet? Is there anything else you can share with us around what you've got planned for the platform in 2018?
Well, we've got a lot of things planned, and we're already off and running. So on the product and platform side, you'll see us to continue to invest heavily in expanding the product, and that'll take the form of new types of questions that can help push people further in their learning. For example, asking more open-ended questions with free-form response, and also expanding into additional study areas with new tools like we did with Quizlet diagrams. And you'll also see Quizlet continue to get smarter in helping people personalize this study experience. Building off of the initial success we've seen with Quizlet Learn, we're investing heavily in AI and machine learning to work towards that vision of providing an AI-powered tutor that can help anyone learn anything. On the go-to-market side, we'll be continuing to grow globally, so continually actively expanding our efforts and operations in Europe and in Asia and South America. Quizlet's now available in 19 languages, so we see and it's used across 130 different countries. So you'll continue to see that growth. And you'll continue to see us invest and grow that verified creator program that I mentioned that allows us to offer even more types of content from all types of global publishers on the platform. So we've got a lot in store, and we're continuing to expand the team to bring more great learning capabilities to people everywhere.
Excellent. Now, before I let you go, can I just ask that you remind the listeners of how they can get in contact with you at Quizlet, find out more information, or actually contact a member of your team with any questions based around our conversation today?
Absolutely. So obviously, you can go and visit us at Quizlet.com, and there you can also see our blog and subscribe to that. You can download the Quizlet apps on the App Store and the Google Play Store. And you can follow us directly we're on Twitter and Instagram, and we're pretty active there and respond to our users and have conversations. And then last, I'd mention if you're a teacher, a professor, an instructor, I'd recommend you check out our instructor resources at Quizlet.com/teacher, and you can find a great community of other like-minded individuals and a lot of materials on how to use Quizlet. Or suggestions, I'd say, on how to use Quizlet in your education practice.
I love the ethos you've got over there at Quizlet. You do have to be curious and encourage people to swim outside their lane. But most of all, I think it's just great making everyone within a company feel empowered to drive any form of change. So a big thank you for coming on today and sharing that story with us.
Absolutely, Neil. Thank you so much for having me.
1 million teachers, 200 million user-contributed study sets representing 8 billion knowledge items and 80 million new items every week. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. I think it's fair to say that Quizlet has continued its success since we last spoke in 2016 for episode 141. And I'm fascinated by how Quizlet is using hackathons, giving everyone a voice and empowering them to drive change. Because I've always thought that being curious and swimming outside of your lane and not being afraid to do things differently is what makes you feel alive and helps you enjoy whatever it is that you do. Because for so many years, many have felt restricted or told not to think for themselves, follow processes, and companies just end up with a regimented workforce of battery thinkers who are unable to operate outside of a process or of a tech note. So I'm so glad that we're heading away from that micromanaged world and unleashing the real value from letting people work on what makes them happy. And as Matt said there, these were not days off from work. These are the times that this workforce actually work their hardest, and even through the night, and countless extra hours. I mean, what does that tell you? If we all work harder when we're happier doing things, why are so many doing jobs that they despise or just settling? So if you're listening to this, dreaming of something better, let's inspire each other and do just that. A few days ago, we spoke to the guys at Coursera, and today we learned how Quizlet is building simple tools and that also let you study anything, anywhere. So the only thing holding anyone back is ourselves. Now don't worry, I'm not going to stand on my desk now saying, "Captain, my captain." But I just think it's incredibly cool to help each other out on this journey we call life. The fact that we're talking to each other now on opposite sides of the world is fantastic in itself, but I also love talking with you all off this podcast as well and helping you where I can. So please share your thoughts and experiences in this area by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes, and even recording an audio voice message if you would prefer. And you can do that by visiting any of the podcast pages over at techblogwriter.co.uk/podcasts. So I will return tomorrow with another tech story. But I've worn myself out there. I think I got a bit preachy towards the end, didn't I? But I found the guests from the last couple of days really, really inspiring. I just want to try and convey that over to you guys, and hopefully it's infectious. So a big thank you for listening. I'll let you go now and take it easy. Feel free to watch Netflix. Don't listen to me. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.